my life changed for me.
Yeah.
Oh. Right? That was my death.
Oh, yeah.
It's about returning home to who you've always been.
Oh.
I wasn't present.
That is amazing.
The energy of this diaper changing room is incredible. I was inspired by the recent Wall Street Journal article on Dave Hollis's tragic passing to make my own little video about the strange hypocrisy of self-help influencers who preach confidence while all the while being very clearly still slaves to their own insecurity and self-loathing. The diaper pail is not totally closed. Okay.
Well, we're not in our most glamorous location right now.
We're not in the most glamorous part of our lives.
Yeah.
In his last book, Built by Courage, Dave Hollis explains that he believes that everyone was put on earth by God to do something, and that everyone should be pursuing whatever that something is, no matter how hazardous or uncomfortable that path to greatness might seem.
When I was at a low point, stuck, overwhelmed by fear, and unsure of myself and my ability to step off the dock and into the ship that would take me into the unknown in the aftermath of divorce, my friend Ethan Willis said something that allowed me to cultivate the courage to keep going. Fulfillment and power will flow through us when we recognize that we are part of something greater and tap into a capacity beyond our own. That capacity beyond our own comes from a higher power. For me, it's a God I believe in as a Christian. For you, be it my God or not, my conversation with Ethan boiled it down to asking two important questions of our higher power. What did my Creator specifically design me to do? What would it mean to shift the plea from help me accomplish these goals to what would you have me accomplish?
On her recent podcast, Dave Hollis's ex-girlfriend, Heidi Powell, seems to be beating a similar drum.
I believe that by me being me, God will put this in the hands and the ears of whoever's meant to hear it.
No matter how terrible her anxiety or how stressful her work-life balance, she feels inexorably pulled to create content and to motivate others.
To get to here is an achievement alone, because I have backed out so many times over many years. But as I was driving, I was like, man, I'm nervous again. Like, I don't think this is a good idea. All this self-talk is going through my head.
She seems to be telling herself that this is ultimately God's will for her life. And who is she, Heidi Powell, to ignore the call of the divine?
I truly believe that we all are here as mouthpieces for God's messages or other people's messages to be shared.
If there is a God, and there isn't, probably not, but if there was, I'm so confident that he is not wrapped up on whether or not Heidi Powell, or indeed anyone, makes a podcast. I don't really know what I believe about the nature of the universe, but that is central to my belief system.
I should also introduce Heidi's co-host, Keya Brinton. She bills herself as a writing coach and publisher. I've also seen her describe herself as a book medium. She helps authors write books in 5 days, which is not enough time. She's also very into this woo-woo idea of getting into a creative flow state. To my knowledge, she herself has not published any books. Is it unusual for someone to sell their expertise on authorship without themselves being authors? If you know anything about the self-help space, no.
Here's a little rundown of the Dave and Heidi universe for those of you that don't spend unjustifiable quantities of time on Reddit. Dave and Heidi both got their start in the online self-help content sphere through their spouses. Dave Hollis was previously married to Rachel Hollis, the author of the best-selling book Girl, Wash Your Face, and the author of her own downfall via this little Instagram video where she told people that she doesn't want to be relatable and that she would never want to be the kind of person he could relate to. She wants to be the kind of person who has a sweet woman come and clean her toilets.
I was doing a live stream and I mentioned that there's a sweet woman who comes to my house twice a week and cleans. She's my house cleaner. She cleans the toilets. Someone commented and said, "You are privileged AF." And I was like, you're right. I'm super freaking privileged, but also I worked my ass off to have the money to have someone come twice a week and clean my toilets. And I told her that. And then she said, well, you're unrelatable. What is it about me that made you think I want to be relatable?
Why don't you clean the toilet while I'm filming this?
I'm filming this.
Oh, all right. Prior to her downfall, Dave Hollis had come on as CEO of Rachel Hollis's company, the Hollis Co., leaving his Disney executive job behind. A lot of Rachel Hollis critics have pointed out that her self-help advice is very much undercut by the fact that she was able to write her books, build her self-help empire, because she had help in the form of, let's assume, nannies, etc., to take care of her kids. And she was able to afford that help because of Dave Hollis's career.
We thought that we would tell you a little bit about us, our marriage. You watch us in videos, and so...
What is this about?
Our marriage.
Yeah.
She always acted like that she was successful just because she's a go-getter. She gets up before everyone else. I was like, no, yeah, you work very hard. I'm sure about that. You're type A personality. But again, you can't ignore the advantage of your husband making, let's assume, 6 to 7 figures.
Key to our long marriage, joint property laws in the state of California.
Rachel eventually divorced Dave Hollis. She did one of those classic influencer posts about their divorce where she posts a picture of them where they're both beaming, smiling, so big and so white.
Happy.
So happy. Oh, God. You know, we just love each other so much that we had to get divorced. There was some backlash to their divorce announcement, marketing themselves as relationship, I don't want to say experts, but as people who could give you advice on your marriage and your relationships, people who had an exceptional marriage with wisdom to share.
We're deliberate. We're intentional. We do take seriously the work that is required to make a marriage great. And
Absolutely.
like we go on dates once a week. Every week, even if we don't want to, even if we don't like each other as much that week, even if we're tired or have traveled or whatever it might be, dating each other is important.
Heidi Powell, much like Dave, had garnered her influencer status through her ex-spouse. Chris Powell is a celebrity fitness trainer. I don't know why I said it like that. And he and Heidi hosted ABC's Extreme Weight Loss from 2011 to 2015. Chris Powell divorced Heidi in 2020, a divorce that, in true influencer fashion, Heidi has relentlessly characterized as extremely positive, and they're still each other's best friends. In 2021...
Are you ready for the date? July 19th, 2020.
Heidi was going to be a guest on Dave's podcast.
Hey, if you're ever in the mood to podcast about divorce, let me know. And when we finally settled in the chairs that we were going to podcast in, he could not get through one sentence without breaking down crying. And he sent a really great thank you, a kind text that, next day or that night. And then it led to like one text a day. I checked in, I think a couple days later, and then he would check in on me. And
Ladies and gentlemen.
I'm a natural.
You are a natural.
I'm a natural. That has not caught a fish. Turned into a friendship that then turned into him inviting me to dinner. And I guess it was 2 weeks later, a couple weeks later. And we created a really incredible friendship over distance that I think could not have been created if we lived close to each other.
So Dave and Heidi almost immediately set out to monetize their relationship. Both still craved the spotlight, but both seemed unsure how to navigate that space on their own.
We're going to go back and forth between Texas and Arizona for years.
As long as we have kids
As long as
in
we
the
have
house.
to, yeah.
Well, didn't that just stress you out with me saying that?
No.
I heard a deep sigh.
No.
I heard...
We're going to do it for as long as we have to.
Heidi got Dave into fitness, started doing bodybuilding competitions. Dave published Built by Courage in 2021. I believe that Built by Courage was supposed to launch his solo career and sort of justify his place in the self-help world. without Rachel. After a not so great book signing and I'm assuming disappointing sales, Dave took to a live stream to tell his audience how annoyed he was with them for not buying his book in greater numbers.
If you follow me and haven't bought my book, unfollow me. Would you do me the favor of spending $18 on the book that I wrote for you?
At some point during the live stream, his 4-year-old daughter asked him to make her Mickey Mouse pancakes, and he shoos her away. At another point, she asked him if she can have some chewable vitamins. He tells her no. And people are telling him, like, go hang out with your daughter. You don't need to be doing this. And at one point he says to her to get a life.
I love you enough to say no. This is a boundary. Get a life. I'm gonna let you parent your kids, brother. I'm gonna go ahead and parent mine.
Which obviously doesn't come off that well to anyone.
I can speak from experience that desperation is very unattractive on men.
Yeah. What do you
It's very attractive on women.
Later, this live stream was dubbed Pancake Gate by the critical community on Reddit. It's also worth pointing out that this daughter was someone who Dave had heavily featured on his channel. He had created a YouTube series of little interviews with her, and he had also created a children's book based on her. It all seems kind of weird that you would basically use someone to exploit your kid in this way to make money, and then when she needs you, it doesn't seem to be a two-way street. And later, Dave Hollis apologized. He says he doesn't recognize, what they always say is like, I don't know who that person was. I don't recognize that person who was doing that bad thing. And he checked into rehab not long after. Heidi made it clear in later podcasts that she was pretty annoyed at Dave for going to rehab, which a lot of people, I think correctly, see as insensitive.
I remember I was really frustrated. And I remember in those moments of frustration, we tend to blame other people, right, for where we're at. But the reality is I create my own circumstances, right? I created the circumstances that landed me carrying a load. We all do. So I need to take responsibility, but it was really hard. And I wouldn't have changed. I even had said, I wouldn't change you being in treatment because I want you to be your best you, because it would not have ended well otherwise.
Yeah.
But also, this is freaking hard. And I didn't say the word freaking. There were a lot of F-bombs and a lot of feeling and crying and breaking down and like actually feeling, I think I had even told you, like, I'm not a victim. I've never been a victim. And I remember being like, I feel like I'm the one that everyone should feel like. I was playing the victim card, which I needed to pull myself out of.
He was one of the celebrities that was going to drive attendance to her wellness retreat. Eventually, Heidi reveals that she and Dave had actually been off and on. The status of their relationship isn't really clear to the audience. There's always this question mark around what they are to each other.
Dave and I are actually not together.
Oh, God. I'm so sorry.
Cool.
Let me air out all of your trauma here, Heidi.
No, I mean, the thing is, it's going to come out at some point. It's just one of those things I don't necessarily feel like I owe it to everybody to say. I never confirmed when we got back together. He and I have broken up 4 different times, right?
Okay.
So it's like, but he and I are great friends.
After he goes to rehab and he seems to be doing better, seems to have gained some self-awareness around his potential as an influencer and seemed to be coming to terms with the fact that being online all the time wasn't that good for him. Heidi would still live stream with him around. Critics of Heidi have pointed out that it seems like she didn't really care that he was trying to take a step back from the internet. February of 2023, Dave Hollis was very sadly found dead. He had died of a combination of fentanyl, cocaine, alcohol, and an underlying heart condition. Rachel Hollis had alluded to the fact that he had this double life when she talked about their divorce in one of her podcasts. His death at 47 was a huge shock to the self-help community on YouTube and Reddit, and to the people who had made quite a bit of content criticizing Dave Hollis's and Heidi Powell's output. One of those channels is called Keya's World. Following his death, Keya's World took a step back from her channel to consider how she felt about her work about Dave Hollis in light of his death.
It's been a little over a week since the news came out that Dave Hollis died. I heard the news for the first time while I was live streaming. Ironically, just after listening to a podcast by Dave and Rachel from 2020 called Your Relationship is Either Growing or It's Dying. I was in shock. Was that he may have taken his own life. I immediately felt really guilty. I've criticized Dave Hollis and his ex-wife and his on-again, off-again girlfriend, fitness influencer Heidi Powell here on YouTube for the last 2 years. I think I probably caused Dave some annoyance while he was alive by my videos and coverage and discussing things online about his life and his brand. And that's something I have to live with. I don't think deleting it is going to fix anything or make anyone feel better, really.
She concluded that Dave Hollis put himself in the spotlight, and by his own admission, the price for being the center of attention is criticism. After the Wall Street Journal article came out, Heidi reached out to Keya to let her know that at the time of his death, Dave was actually in the process of making a video responding to Keya about all her criticisms.
Hey, here we go. Here is the big accusation that sent me into a spiral, to be quite honest. Dave shot a video for you 6 days before he died. Okay, Dave shot a video for you. So this is specifically apparently directed at me, according to her. So she told Eric that it was a video from a critic. But then I guess now because she's accusing me in this way that she's saying that it's my video, I guess, I don't know. Literally, ... his dying words. He only didn't post it because he chose to be kind. You hurt him more than you might ever know. So, I did not know what to do when I received this DM, again, out of the blue.
Chillingly, in the article, it says that he was found dead with his phone on his chest. Heidi's basically trying to make her feel guilty about a possible role she had in his death. And this is after Heidi had sent her voice messages telling her how she liked her channel and she thought she was funny and how she'd be willing to be interviewed by Keya. And all of a sudden this article comes out and she's singing a very different tune.
She also exhibits what self-help critics call toxic positivity when she's talking about Dave Hollis's death. Instead of just letting it be a tragedy, she has to put a positive spin on it. Just let it be sad, Heidi.
I'm not saying it was for me because it wasn't. But I think in life, we can look at things that happen as things that happen to us or things that happen for us.
Yeah.
So I've tried to make the hardest thing I've ever been through, no exception to that rule.
Yeah.
And how can I look at this tragedy as something that's happening for all of us? And there's something beautiful that happens when someone passes. I definitely feel held by him in a way that he couldn't have if he was here.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why they're wearing all white and talking like that.
Life changed for me.
Yeah. Oh.
Right? I wasn't present. Oh. It's about returning home to who you've always been.
Oh.
I think in the self-help space, people would be more sort of sensitive of looking like a cult or a cult would-be's.
They wear cult garb?
They wear cult garb TM. Heidi talks about the immense pressure she puts on herself to be super successful.
Them checking me in and I was just hyperventilating, crying, sobbing in the waiting room.
Yeah.
And she said, "What's your profession?" And it just was like broke down because it was tied to a role that I had that I thought I had value in that really was controlling me instead of me controlling it.
It's impossible for you to walk away from something when you've convinced yourself that it's not just you wanting to have a career and wanting to have success. No. It's God's will. Like, how can you turn something down or walk away or change directions or give up if God is making you do this?
It helps to deflect constructive criticism. If that comes your way, you can just go,
it's me and God. Don't worry about it.
And that's such a good
Too many
point.
cooks, right?
That's such a good point. And I think that she has gotten a ton of criticism. And I think that, yeah, it's that this is another way that she tunes it all out. Like, no, there's no way that there's anything wrong with me constantly posting about my kids and how my youngest kid is basically my emotional support system and my therapist.
Even Ruby, I've posted a million times on Insta that Ruby is my natural antidepressant.
Yeah.
And she has been forever. And I couldn't even find joy in my kids.
Yeah.
Nothing I do can be wrong because it's me doing what God wants me to do.
The channel is like, it's just a river.
Yeah.
Right? So you're just opening up saying, all right, God, like
Ooh.
I'll be a vessel.
Ooh.
Just work through me. That's just all channeling.
I think Dave Hollis was in the process of accepting that he actually wasn't made by God to be a self-help influencer. But he was still, I think, distraught by what he perceived as failure. He couldn't teach self-confidence or self-actualization while he cast about for any form of validation and approval he could find from his online audience. One of the last podcasts that Dave Hollis puts out, he talks about going to church and hearing the message that you are worthy of God's love unconditionally.
The reason why I cried for 58 minutes of an hour, 15-minute service is that the idea that I am good and worthy before I do anything comes back to and is connected to a core wound of mine that has not yet fully healed. And if you are someone who feels like your goodness or your worthiness or your deserving of love is a thing that comes with a contingency that you check certain boxes or do certain things or be a certain way, as far as God's concerned, first and foremost, his love comes without any conditions needing to be satisfied.
And I wish that Heidi would listen to that episode because she's clearly someone who's frantically trying to prove herself all the time and feels that she's not enough no matter how much she's doing. Just to torture an already very tortured metaphor, Captain Dave put a lot of nautical metaphors in Built by Courage. It opens with the quote, "A ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are made for." And to that I say, okay, but ships also weren't made to sink. And a lot of times, if a ship captain sees that it's choppy, windy, stormy conditions, the captain will say, actually, let's stay in the harbor because the ocean seems like it sucks. In his book, Dave talks about pushing through and ignoring the voices of doubt and doing it no matter how uncomfortable it makes you. I just want to give some advice to the advice givers. If something is making you miserable and uncomfortable all the time, stop. Do something else. There's always other things. You can always quit. You can always quit. I think I'm going to be like a self-help influencer for people who want to be losers. I hope that Heidi can find some peace, and I hope that she stops trying to make other influencers feel like they're at fault for Dave's death. I think that's a very wrong thing to do. Thanks for watching. You can subscribe if you want, and if it's not too much effort, you know how I feel about trying too hard. If you subscribe, it also helps to hit the bell notification because we don't know when we're going to publish our next video. We have a baby, and he doesn't always sleep, so we're very much at his mercy. Sorry to put my baby on blast. I know I shouldn't do that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.